Hello everyone, again this is Rosito Orchestra, and today we will talk about continuation on what we have discussed the last time about the database management system. Okay, as a little review on the previous video, we talk about the relational database. Okay, talk about the models, the data structures, and how will be the information are arranged in your database. So unsa siya paghanay. Last time we talk about the hierarchical, we talk about network, and then the relational database. Okay, so those are the models of structuring your database. So saan ito siya pag-arrange ang information, saan ito siya pag-anahay. We talk about the parents and child table. We talk about table relationship, the primary key and the foreign key. So all those topics are present in our last video, our last discussion. But today we will talk about the SQL, or the structured query language. As per definition from the EWIC, so this is retrieved from EWIC website. So an SQL, or the structured query language, is used to communicate with the database. So since database administrator, kinahanglan niya i-manage ang database, kinahanglan niya i-process ang data. As for example, kung saan yung pagbutang dito sa data or information, kung saan yung pag-retrieve. So napaka siya i-remove or i-delete, or napaka siya i-change. So through structured query language, pwede na buhatan ng database administrator. So SQL statements are used to perform tasks such as update data on a database or retrieve from a database. So some common relational database management systems are using SQL, and some of these systems are Oracle, Sybase, Microsoft SQL Server, Access, Ingress, and there are a lot of a lot of database management system ang gigamit is SQL. Although na yung mga nag-exist karon nga no SQL, those databases with no SQL, not only SQL, but this is the most common language, query language for database management. And then with this, the most common command that we can use to manage our database is select, insert, update, delete, create, and drop. Those are the most common commands. Okay, if we say select, we're going to retrieve an information or data, a specific data, or specific tuples or row from your database table. If we say insert, we're going to add new information into your database. If we say update, we are going to change information or data from your database. And then if we say delete, that's about removing or deleting, omitting an information from your database. If we say create, we are going to create an object or an entity, like say for example a table that represents an entity. Tapos butangan na to siyang mga attributes. So create ang gamiton, and then if ato siyang i-delete ang katong table or katong entity, we use drop. Those are the most common commands nga katong magamit sa database management. Okay, so to make it more clearer, I'll show you an example. So I prepared. We will not focus on what database management system I'm using, or the software itself, but the SQL, the structured querying language. So siya may ito pinakapuntuan nga discussion, not the MySQL ba kung gamit, Microsoft Access ba, or Oracle ba. No, it's not system, it's not the software, but it's the structured query language may itong pinaka-main na topic. So muna ito sa isigutan, so muna inyo dapat put in your mind, okay, sabton nyo, because all of, if not most, if not all, most of the database management system ang gigamit is structured query language, or SQL. Siguro na siya gamay differences, pero siguro from double quote to single quote to double quote, the way it concatenate commands, like instead of plus they're using ampersand or a dot. So maybe nga na lang ma-change, but the concept of insert, update, delete are almost the same, if not 100%. Okay. Well then, so for example, in your database you have this table, students. So the name of that table is students. Okay, and that table has these attributes: student ID, full name. It also has address. Okay, so yan. Student ID will be your primary key. Okay, so perhaps in your database you have this table student, or entity student. And this entity has three attributes: student ID, full name, and address. While student ID is your primary key, or the unique key that will represent each tuples, each row of information. So ato na siyang i-convert into image table view ni siya. So student ID, full name, address. And say for example, okay, so how about ayun, ano na siya forma. Okay, so this table is currently empty, wala pa siya sulod. As database administrator, as you are, kinahanglan mo siyang suldan og information. So what's the main purpose of that table, of that database table that represents the real entity, the real world, which is the student? Kung wala kay ibutang ng information, dapat mo siyang gamitan, mo siyang butang information, mo siyang i-manage. So first thing you should learn is how to insert an information using the structured query language. So a command would be okay. So this is an example. Okay, so to be able to add a new value into your table, in your database table, you are going to use insert command. This one, the keyword insert. Okay, so that is the command for inserting a value into your database table. And as for this, if we compare it to our table, as you can see, insert into student. So the name of the table is student. That is why the command is, it says insert into student. Now, unsa may yang i-insert dito sa student, unsa may yang ibutang, unsa may yang isulod. So, unsa ang mga values, unsa ang content, unsa ang unod yang ibutang dito. So, these are the values. 1, comma, and then a single quote, then Rosette Orchestra, single quote, comma, single quote, Pagdaan City, single quote. So, the first value is 1. That is for your student ID. So if i-execute ako ng command kining insert into student, okay, kung i-execute ako ng insert into student values parenthesis and then the 1 restore sa Pagdaan City, ang ito ba na is mabutang rin number 1 sa student ID, then mabutang sa full name ang Rosette Orchestra, and then sa address mabutang ang Pagdaan City. Okay, so that would be the result. Using a software that will manage, you're going to use to manage your database. Let's say for example MySQL database. So if ever imong i-execute ng command kining insert, magamit og insert ng keyword, after typing insert into students values 1 Rosette Orchestra, press nimo og enter key, i-execute niya ang command, and nagsubay mo balik sa imuhang table nga student, na rin siya sulod. So to make it more understandable, ako siyang tayo gamit. So I have here the MySQL database. So again dili mag-focus kung saan gigamit nga database management system or ang software, because dili man siya nga atong pinaka-main topic, but the structured query language, the language itself, ang mga commands. So nagamit ko MySQL, never mind MySQL nga database, ang i-mind nyo is ang commands. Okay. I don't know if you can see it clear, but to be sure, ako i-change akong font size. Okay. So this is the environment of MySQL database. Magamit ang console or command prompt. Anyway, nasa yung mga software nga pakapin, pwede na ito siya gamitan ng GUI or GUI, graphical user interface, but para mas makita nyo ang commands, so mas gipili na ko na akong gamiton karon ng discussion. So at first dapat mag-create sa database because I don't have database yet. So ako na siyang i-show databases. This is the result. So as you can see, wala pa yung makita din ng student. So I'm still not confident on the font size, so ako siyang i-try ko. So these are the databases. So by default na siyang database. Pag-install mo sa MySQL database, hindi na ako siya hiraptan, mag-create ko akong kagaling database. So create database, and then the name of the database, say for example CSS 12. Since mo nang inyong or prudence, database prudence. Okay. So, nakakreate ako database. Let's try to see kung ano bang prudence. So, the last time, nag-show databases ko, ang nalang is information schema, MySQL, and test. But now, nga naghatag og query nga create database, prudence, atong balikan diri ang giingon, di ba? However, the standard SQL commands such as, okay, so these are the standard. So that is why nagamit akong keyword na create. Okay, kung maklaro ninyo na ang keyword na create. So these are the keywords. So those are the most common keywords para sa structured query language. So the first one I use is create. Nag-create ko database. Create database prudence. As you can see, as a result, instead nga information schema, MySQL, and test lang ang karon na prudence nga database. So I'm going to use that database. Kaya dyan ako ibutang ako ang entity nga student or ang table ng student. So use prudence. Database change, that means na ako sa sulod. So kinahanglan ko musulod sa database. Ganyan, nag-create lang ko database. And then, para masuldan ako sa table, kinahanglan musulod ko sa database. So I've first changed my database to prudence. Gamitan ako ang create nga database. And then dito ko mag-create o table or entity. As you can see, we'll try to create a model which is related to the real world. Mag-create tag table ng student, but kanang table ng student represents an entity that represents the real student in the real world. Okay. If you can still remember the entity, the definition of the entity, so it should be connected to a real world entity. So, since nagamit na ako ang prudence nga database, mag-create ako table student. Primary key na to is student ID. So, it will allow me to use a space, a blank space. That's why I'm using an underscore. There is ato ang Excel na space, but in MySQL database mag-error na siya. That is why ako siyang ibutang underscore instead of blank space or white space. Then the data type, don't forget the data type. So ako ibutang diri ang yan ang success ng 11, and then primary key, not null. Since sa atong design, kaniya atong primary key is or unique key or primary key sa student ID man, dahil so ato siyang yapili na sa command sa pag-create dito table na student. Ato na siya ng hatagan o instruction na si student ID mo atong primary key. Not null means dapat dili siya biyaan nga blanco. Required siya nga butangan og value. Not null means required siya butangan og value. Balikan natin diri sa atong Excel. Dili pwede nga nakay full name, nakay address, but blanco ang imong student ID. Unsa pa may purpose imong student ID as primary key kung wala si sulod, di ba? Wala student nga wala student ID. Kung wala man galing siya katong printed nga school ID, but still na siya ID number. So mo tayo itong himong unique key, di ba? So every student has a unique key. So dapat dili na siya blanco. That is why ito siyang ibutang sa command as not null. Primary key and not null. So di siya pwede left as blank. Then comma, so that we can proceed to the next column. The next column is full name. Ito na siyang one word. It's supposed to be, it's 2 words. This is 2 words at ang row. And then this will be text. Since letters man siya. Words. 1 word name, 2 words name, 3 words name. Tapos yung text. And then address. Still, ito siyang tagan o data type nga text. And since on the upper part na siya open parenthesis, tapos yung i-close. And then don't forget the semicolon as tuldok or end sa imong command. So every or each command in MySQL database will end in semicolon. Pwede siya may mong wala sa uban nga MySQL ubang database nga nagamit og SQL. So for example like Oracle or Microsoft SQL Server, basta hindi sila mag-require og semicolon. So but in MySQL database kailangan sa semicolon. Then I press the enter key, yan na ang result. The message is query okay, 0 rows affected. That means I don't have an error, my command is okay, nag-execute siya. So if I say show tables, ang result is yung nanay, tables and prudence. So makita na nako din si student. Ganiha, kung ako sa show tables, so dili mo na makita si student diha ng entity. So it will not exist or not be displayed since wala na ito siya i-create. But since nag-create ko daan before ko nag-show tables, mo siya nga makita ng mga nasa student diha. Sulod sa mga tables and prudence, sa ubos na student na butang. So create. How about drop? Gusto na ko siya i-delete na mali day ko. Mali ko butang sa akong attributes na mali delay student ID or delay full name or delay address. So akong delete ang student nga entity or table. Ang command is drop. So let's try drop. The first command, it gives an error. Yun aning ang resulta sa MySQL database kung magkatay siya error. It will give you an error code 1064 and then 4200. So you have an error in your SQL syntax. Check the manual that corresponds to MySQL server version for the right syntax. Syntax is in programming, as you can, I don't know if you can still remember, the syntax is the grammar of the command. So this is namali daw nga itong command. So probably ako lang ang tag-word yung table because wala siya kabalo kung unsa ang iyahang i-drop. So perhaps itong butangan o word yung table, drop tables student. Then voila, ingon siya query okay, 0 rows affected, 0.0 seconds. So, that means okay ang akong command. The first command, list okay, it is because wala nabutang ang word yung table. And the second command, nabutang ko ang word yung table, drop table student. Pag press mo enter key, and siya query okay. So let's try to evaluate kung nawala ba itong table na student. So I'll give command show tables and then it says empty set 0.0 seconds. That means wala isulod nga table lang ato ang database nga prudence. The name of the database is prudence and then it says it's empty. Wala siya isulod nga table or entity. Kung ako siyang i-try o balik o create ang student, create table student, student ID, full name, address. So ako siyang gi-create, gi-drop, and then gi-recreate na po na ko siya. Pag magbalik ko command ng show tables na nadiaan table ng student. And then kung ako siyang i-describe, describe is to check kung sakto ba yun ang sulod sa mong table ng student. Kung i-try o di na tumutang ang word nga table but just describe student. Okay. So in describe, dili na kinahanglan kung butangan pa nimo siya og table or dili. It is because ang pag magamit yung word to describe, it will only refer to table or views. So, wala sila in i-determine or pwede gamitan ang word we describe or ang keyword we describe, but table. So this way, dili na kinalabutan pa nimo keyword nga table. Describe table student, where it will always look for a table that named student. Pero kung mag-drop ka, pwede man mo gamiton si drop para sa database, sa table, or sa procedure, or sa views, function, triggers. So pwede mo siya gamiton dito ang drop. So that is why kailangan specify nimo kung saan mo gusto i-drop. Is it a table, is it a database, or procedure? But in describe, hindi naman kinabutang ng table. It is because automatic table ang gamitan mo sa describe. So as you can see, nadiha itong field or itong attribute for the student entity or table. We have student ID, full name, address. Then there's the type, the int, the text. Type is the data type. Kung pwede ba siya ibiyaan nga blanco. So the only column nga giset na was dili pwede blancohan is ang inyong student ID. Kung nang siya pwede no, ano na key, it is nasa value nga or primary, PRI. Then by default wala sila sulod. Extra is could be a data dictionary or a comment about that certain attribute kung say dapat ibutanda or unsay gamitan niya, unsay purpose na niya. So it may be an explanation kana extra, but wala ta nagadog extra. Could be another extra command. Okay, so by default ano lang. And then so na natay table. But before na to ma-subdan tong insert ng command, we will proceed to select first this one, the select ng keyword, para mas masabtan na to sa insert niya. So now i-discuss na ako si select. Okay, so in your select, so this is just a simple command, select. Might as well ako na lang nakuha sa dali. So the keyword is select. So siguro understandable na siya, dili na kayo sa lesson sa auto, no? Select asterisk from student. So the term select is mamili na, kung sa Bisaya pa nato, mamili. But in structured query language, select is a command which is we are going to retrieve values or information or data from your database table. Imo siyang kaon, imo siyang i-display, imo siyang i-view, imo siyang ipakita. And that's the purpose of keyword select. Asterisk, kanang asterisk ni that represents this one. This one here, that asterisk right there, that represents all. Okay, asterisk all data. Okay, it represents all the data ang asterisk. Okay, let me rewrite it. Sorry for the bad penmanship. Okay, so asterisk represents all data. Okay, that means kung unsay nasa sulod sa imong table nga student, iyahang i-display tanan, iyahang ipakita sa screen, iyahang i-display dito sa imong monitor screen, sa imong command prompt dari. diri yang i-display. So if we are to use that command, select asterisk from student, the return is empty set 0.0 second. That means wala pa isulod ang imuhang table student. So wala pa siya sulod, wala pa siya i-display. So how about atong gamiton ang keyword insert para masudlan siya. Okay. So in this case, insert into student values 1. Okay. So the first command is select asterisk from student. That is to retrieve data or information or values from your student table para yang i-display din sa itong command prompt or sa itong computer monitor. But since wala pa siya sulod, wala siya i-display. That is why ang gihatag ng result is empty set 0.0 seconds. So ato siyang sudlan gamit ang keyword nga insert into student values. Ang sulod sa values 1 for the ID, student ID. Rosito Orquesta na siya single quote. It is because text man siya, words man siya, so ito siya gibutang single quote. Pagalan City, words po siya, so ito siya gibutang single quote. But as for the student ID, dili man siya word, it is a number, so wala ito siya butang yung single quote. So that the computer or MySQL will identify or will understand that one is an integer. Okay, so after pressing the enter key in my keyboard, yan na result. Query okay, one row affected. That means we have inserted one record into our database. So let's try to execute the select asterisk again. Asterisk from student. Okay. So on the first command, on the first execution of select asterisk from student, wala siya gihatag nga result. But karon nga na-insert na butangan nato siya og value, nagamit nato si insert into student with the values of 1, Rosito Orquesta, and Pagadian City. Pagbalik nato execute sa select asterisk from student, na siya sulod. Na siya student ID nga 1, full name nga Rosito Orquesta, napod siya address nga Pagadian City. Okay? So how about na mali? Dapat di ay ang kuwang full name na ay middle initial nga D. So Rosito D Orquesta. Dapat ato siyang usbon. So how that be? Executed. So na sa pag-execute ang update. So using the word or the keyword update. So how that be executed? The update, ayun na po ang command niya. So date student seat full name okay. So the keyword update, the keyword is update. The keyword is update. Then naisunod ang name sa table, which is the table student. And then the keyword set this keyword sit here na siya, but pasabot na unsa nga column ang imuhang i-change. So ang column nga full name, so i-change nimo ang value sa column nga full name. Kung atong balikan dito sa tuang, so diri man ang atong usbon, di ba? Ang kini na full name Rosito Orquesta. So that is why the update keyword needs the word or the keyword sit, SET, full name, ang ngalan sa column nga ato ang i-change ang value dito atong column. So unsa man ang atong i-list. So instead of just Rosito Orquesta, ato siyang ibutangan og D, ato siyang ibutangan og D. So out of, instead of Rosito Orquesta lang, mahimo siyang Rosito D Orquesta, ano sa middle initial. And then since we're going to change a value, we'll use where. Okay, this is the new value. This is the table. This is additional keyword nga mag-determine kung unsang imuhang i-change, asang column ang imong i-change ang yang content or yang value kanang set. Okay, so ang where, the where clause, okay, the where clause is will determine kung unsa nga specific nga ID ang imong i-change or specific nga row. Okay, try to imagine if this is your table na karon. Halimbawa na siya different values na dyan, na siya different yun na siya different students or values, kasi 3 ka rows, 3 students with different student ID 1, 2, and 3. Now if we don't use this where clause, call this where clause, okay, if we don't use this, dili siya kabalo kung asa lang ngihang usbon. Kung di lang to siya butangan atong where, kani diri tanan, pati ning student number 2, student number 3, iyahang parihason ang name, mahimo na siya tanan og mahimo na ang tanan og Rosito D Orquesta. That is why ato siyang gigamitan og where. Student ID equals to 1. The primary key column. Kaya mo ito unique. Wala may magparehas sa primary column. Right? Kaya kung gamiton diha is address, basin og na yung mga estudyante nga para sa address. So tanang parehas og address himuon niya Rosito D Orquesta. Sabtan. So that is why student ID mo itong ibutang sa where clause. Kay unique man student ID, wala may student nga parehas og ID number. Lahi-lahi mo yun na siya ID number. That means isa ra gyud ang iyahang i-change nga value. Katurog yung student nga ang iyang student ID is 1. Panilain. Katurog gyud may ang ilistan. So that is the purpose of where student ID is equal to 1. Okay? So ito siyang i-try. Ito siyang i-perform. But first, ito siyang i-try o insert og lain nga value para mas makita. So 2, tapos ito siyang ngalan ng Rosita, and then instead of pagalian, ito siyang butang log dumalinaw, and then mag-insert pag yung tag third student, dayon tukura. Okay. Currently, I have 3 students. I have Rosito, Rosita, and Rosette from Pagadian City, Dublinaw, and Tukuran. So, ang ato lang i-change is ang first student or ang student na Rosito Orquesta ang full name na na student ID ng 1. Instead of Rosito Orquesta, we will change that to Rosito D Orquesta. So, na siya ay middle initial. So, the keyword is update. Update student set full name equals C2D Orquesta, where student ID is equal to 1. So this will be the command. Pushing enter. So after pressing the enter key in the keyboard, it says query okay, 1 row affected. That means na isa ka row din sa tong table nga iyahang gihilabtan, giusab, because 1 row affected in 0.00 second. And then it says rows match 1, change 1, warnings 0. So nakita niya ang rows nga may student ID nga 1, tapos gi-change niya katurapod nga row, that is why change 1, then wala error sa kung pag-update, so that is why warnings is equal to 0. So ito siyang i-try og select. Panaw na to kung nasabag yun ang value. Okay. So instead of Rosito de Orquesta lang, nahimo siyang instead of Rosito Orquesta lang, nahimo siyang Rosito de Orquesta with the middle initial. Okay. Perhaps kung ako siyang i-update nga dili ko magamit og where. Say for example, update student set ang address akong usbon. What I have in mind is ako ang i-change ang address ni Rosette, student number 3. Instead of Tukuran, ako siyang i-change into Labangan. Okay? So instead of Tukuran, ang address ni Rosette Orquesta, ako siyang i-change into Labangan. But dili na ako gamitan ng where. Set address equals to Labangan. Okay. But I will not add the where clause. Ba, ang purpose of where clause is para ma-determine kung kinsa lang or unsa lang ang iyahang i-update. Asa lang nga row. Si student 1 ba? Si student 2 o si student 3? Pero kung yun ang command sa pag-update na wala ka nang butang where clause, wala mo gi-determine kung unsa nga primary key ang ihalang lisdan, so what will happen? So let's try. So it says query okay, 3 rows affected. Okay, so you can say 3 rows affected, tulo. Rows match, tulo. Change, tulo. Warnings 0. So ato na siyang i-select. Tanan nga student na himong Labangan ang address. So yun ana ka importante ang imuhang where clause kung mag-update. Nga importante ang where clause kung mag-update. Okay? Ana. Kung wala ang where clause, ang may tabo, tanan nga column, tanan nga address na usab. Just like this. Update student, said address, labangan, without adding the where, student ID is equal to blah blah. So, tanan, ang record niyang giusab. Okay. So, nagamit na nato si select, si insert, si create, si drop. Now, delete. So, for example, i-delete na to si student number 2. Okay, si student number 2 is nimbalhin og laing school. Wala siya nimpadayon og enroll sa tong school. Nimbalhin siya laing school. So, kung i-remove din na ang iyang data, ang iyang information. Okay, wala man siya nimpadayon og enroll din, nimbalhin man siya. So, ang keyword is delete. Okay. Okay. Delete from student where student ID is equal to 2. Okay. So, diba? 2 man ang student ID ni Rosita. 2 man, number 2 ang yung student ID. So atong ibutang din na po sa where is student ID 2. Here. This one. Okay. Where student ID is equal to 2. Because ang ato ang gusto i-delete or tangtangon or remove is si student number 2, which is ang yung full name is Rosita Orquista. Itong try. Delete from student where student ID is equal to 2. So it says delete from student where student ID is equal to 2. The result is query okay, 1 row affected. That means isa lang kabok niyang i-delete. So atong i-try o select asterisk from student. Tanaw na to kung isa lang bid kabok niyang i-delete. And isa lang niyang i-delete. Ang number 2 student lang, 0 sita lang. So ang nabilin is only student number 1 and student number 3. Or the student with the full name Rosita Orquista and the student with the full name Rosita Orquista. A student nga supposed to be Rosita Orquista, iyahang remove sa list, iyang gitangtang sa table, iyang delete sa table. Okay, so those are the basic commands of structured query language. That is how you create a table, you drop a table. Don't forget that table is the entity that represents or with a connection to the real world entity. Like our example student, connected siya sa tinulog ng student, and should be the attributes are real attributes nga makita po nato sa real world entity ng student. And then we use select to view the content or the information or the data saved in our table student. We use insert to add new information or new data into our table student. We use update keyword to change an information or a specific data from our table student, and we use delete to remove specific row or specific information from our table student. Okay, so those are the most commonly used commands in structured query language. So I hope you understand. I hope you have got idea. Again, don't mind with the one I'm using, the SQL server or the MySQL server, because most if not all database management software use SQL commands. It uses the same select, the same insert, update, the same delete, create, and drop. So it's the same keyword they're using. It's like a universal language for database management. If you have more inquiries or questions, please comment to this video. Kaya ito na siyang additional video discussion next upload, or ito siyang tubagon in the comment section. And that's all. Thank you.